give me one shot here on a blue chip stock, believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What's going on, NBA draft fans? Your boys are back. The Wolves of Ball Street, your favorite draft analyst, the Draftdaq NBA Draft Podcast. My name is Corey Tulliba, and I am here, as always, with my co-host, Albert. Garbage time. Gim. Albert, it's game time. We are less than a week away. It's the week of the draft. How we feeling?
It's literally not garbage time, right? It's like you said, it's game time. It's crunch time.
Crunch time.
We are here living in the moment, and we made it, Corey, to another NBA draft. It's I think you texted this to me a couple of weeks ago or something. You were like, blessings on blessings is exactly how I feel right now. Feels incredible to be here. And let's talk about the best player in this draft. Let's go.
Look, this has been a big week for No Ceilings. It's going to continue to be a big week at No Ceilings. It's been a absolute major week for the Draftdaq podcast, right? You know, you had a killer interview with Santa Clara's Jalen Williams. I threw up my interview with Darion Sebron. We've been covering all the top guys. Paulo. I mean, we did a wild card mock draft with Rucker. Things got crazy, and we have to finish strong, start the week out strong by, as you said, talking about the number one player on our boards, who we feel is the number one player in this class, and that's Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga. So Chet is a freshly turned 20-year-old, 7 foot, 195-pound potential unicorn, reported 7'6" wingspan. Wouldn't shock me if that was off at this point. Right. Average 14.1 points per game, 9.9 rebounds per game, 1.9 assists per game to 1.9 turnovers, 0.8 steals, and 3.7 blocks. Shot 60.7% from the field, 39% from three, 71.7% from the line. True shooting percentage of 69. Nice. 0.1%. PER of 31.3. Albert, that's not bad.
Wow.
That is not that bad.
That PER number's sick. I know, like, PER is not the best stat, but Jesus.
No, but you know what? That stat, I feel like when you look at all of the big time number one guys, that's where it's at. That's kind of where the benchmark is. Because you see, like, EJ Liddell has a super high PER this year. You know, upperclassmen, they get to that benchmark a lot of the times, these like first round, older upperclassmen guys. Freshmen very rarely do. So I do feel like it is indicative of the impact that Chet had this year. Preseason, Chet had a stock price of 1.4. He was number one on ESPN, Bleacher Report, Basketball News, Tankathon. I believe he was 2 on SB Nation. Currently, he is number 1 on ESPN. The Athletic has him at 2, Tankathon at 1, Basketball News at 2, Bleacher Report at 2, Sports Illustrated at 4, The Ringer at 3, No Ceilings at 1, SB Nation at 2, average stock price of 2 flat. So, Albert, with an average stock price of 2, and we already said how we feel. Is it too high, too low, just right? I mean, is there an argument that Chet Holmgren is not the best player in this draft?
Well, look, I don't want to like shit on all the content that's out there. I'm sure a lot of people are pumping out content that Chet shouldn't be number one. So that my intention is not to hate on all those people, but I just think they're wrong. For me, Chet is the number one guy, and I get it. I've heard all the different arguments. We have an incredible piece on our website written by our very own Alex, who wrote about Paulo, why he thinks Paulo should be number one. And I get it. But respectfully, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong, Alex. I love you, but I think you're wrong. And here's why. We'll get more into it, obviously. So my answer, Corey, yes, too low. I have him number one. And I want to reference your piece because the piece that you and Rucker wrote was a masterpiece. And what you guys, the ultimate thesis of your piece is stop overthinking Chet, which is what we hope to do today. And I feel, Corey, this feels very reminiscent of last year when we did our Cade episode, and we said the same exact thing. Stop overthinking Cade. Stop overthinking Chet. So 2's too low for me.
It's too low for me for all of the reasons that you mentioned, and we'll get into the specifics of his game. So this is a little bit different than, we usually do the $10 to invest, and we're going to. So if you had $10 to invest in Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, and Jabari Smith, how would you spend your 10? Because this is a little bit more nuanced, right? You could still give the most money to Chet, but it says, I think, how strongly do we feel that he is the number one prospect based on the amount of money that we're allotting, the percentage of our $10. So you got $10 in the top 3 ranked guys. How are you spending it?
Cool. Now, usually I take forever to answer this question, but I'm ready. Chet gets $5. Paolo and Jabari get $2.50 from me.
Nice. Simple.
Yep.
Straight to the point. Chet's going to get 5 from me. Paolo's going to get 3, and Jabari's going to get 2.
Cool.
I think part of me would be shocked if Jabari ended up being the best player in this draft. Part of me would be shocked. Now, only part of me, because I think that Jabari obviously is lights out shooter at 6'10". That's special. I love his ability to defend. So two-way guy who could knock down shots right away. That's a pretty high floor for him. But to develop the kind of on-ball equity that he would need, in my opinion, to really be that all NBA caliber guy, that's really hard. It's not impossible by any means, but it's a difficult bar. So it would surprise me a little bit if he were able to surpass those 2 guys if they hit their ceilings as well. All right, let's get into the scouting report. And look, we start with offense typically, but we're going to switch it up because this is the Chet Holmgren episode. And I think that with Chet, we have to, start with his defense.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing to me that stands out. I think that's not breaking news by any stretch of the imagination. You're talking about a 7-footer with a 7'6" wingspan. Let's talk about the rim protection. I had, somebody who I really trust tell me, who works in the NBA, tell me that Chet Holmgren is ahead of Evan Mobley defensively at the same point in their career. And he said this after Evan Mobley had already been absolutely, thriving in the NBA. So let's talk about his rim protection. What kind of level of a rim protector are we talking here?
Corey, I thought about this long and hard. I actually have a nickname for Chet Holmgren.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with him being skinny. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's white. His nickname for me is Fear Factor. And the reason why I call him Fear Factor is
very
for a couple
white
reasons. There's something about me, Joe Rogan, that you might not know.
A block rocks. I don't know.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty good. But okay. So I want to call him Fear Factor because number one, very easily, right? Very straightforward. He strikes fear in the hearts of anybody who comes down the lane. Right. Yeah. But on top of that, too, Fear Factor became so famous because of all the gnarly, disgusting things they would do on that show, whether it's bull testicles or some sort of weird seafood. But everything that Chet does on that side of the ball is gnarly. It's disgusting. The stuff that he can do and the fear that he strikes into the hearts of people who come into the lane is unbelievable, Corey. The length is the length, right? But we've seen, because we have tons of guys in the NBA who are long. So it's not enough to just be like, hey, you're long. Good job, buddy, right? It's how you use that length. With Chet, the discipline, the patience, the timing, all that in how he uses that length is so important to me. And I just think that he is going to be such a mature, thoughtful, cerebral defender with those tools. And we'll talk about the skinny stuff later because I can talk about that forever. But as a rim protector, I think he's an elite rim protector from day one. I'm not that he's the best rim protector in the NBA. I won't say that. There are very good rim protectors on the next level, but he's going to be a ridiculous one, in my opinion.
What do you think you would struggle with the most in Fear Factor? Is it the eating the weird stuff? Is it heights? For me, I think it would be like sitting in like a tank of like cockroaches or something.
Yeah.
little known fact about me, I was on an episode of Silent Library.
Wow.
MTV Silent Library. And the final like challenge was we had to like eat a gingerbread house made out of dog food.
Oh.
And it was actually worse than you think it is, because I went into it going, I could do this. So it was bad. But I feel like I can get through that, but there's not as much of a mental hurdle. For me, it would be the bugs.
For me, it's the height stuff. I'm so afraid of heights.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I'm pretty tall, but yeah, can't do it.
Well, I mean, you're human tall. You're not like skyscraper tall. So I think it checks out.
But I get that all the time, Corey. People are always like, how are you afraid of heights? You're tall. And I'm like, what?
You're not that high up on the ground. Like Chet's taller than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're a big guy, but yeah, he's an intimidator. He's scary, man. And you talk about like the discipline like that. There's a lot of guys who block a lot of shots, but they're just chasing blocks. They want to swat everything that leads to foul trouble. It's like gambling on the perimeter for a wing where maybe you're going up for a block, but it's causing the defense, problems. I think that he's ultimately going to be like, because of his rim protection, and we'll get into the rest of the stuff, but I mean, the impact that he's going to have just as an intimidator, like there are so many times where guys would drive in and they would just have to like do that Nash dribble, that Gretzky dribble, where they are going baseline and dribble right back out because they're like, I can't put a shot up. I just can't do it. Like I think it's hard to put into words how long he is sometimes. Like I know you've seen him in person, like it obviously comes across on TV, but can you imagine being on a basketball court and trying to get a layup over Chet? Like what did he look like in person?
So Corey, I can actually speak to that because as I was standing next to him, that's exactly what was going through my mind. I tried to imagine myself as a college guard because I'm like kind of college guard height, right? I'm like 6'2", 6'3", right in between. But if I were to drive the lane against Chet, even if I had NBA athleticism, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. The first thing that I want to say, and I've said this on previous pods, whatever. Chet is not skinny. And I want to throw that out there for all the crap that goes out there. And everyone's going to say this about him. I'm worried about his body. I'm worried about the weight. I'm worried about the frame. I stood next to him, literally 2 feet apart. He could probably feel me. He probably looked over at me and was like, why is this Asian guy standing here with his mouth open? It's probably what he was thinking because I was that close to him while he was warming up on the floor. And I have tons of video footage of him shooting and doing all kinds of drills. But I stood next to him, and the biggest thing that I need to reiterate, Corey, for all the stuff that's out there about him being skinny, he's not. He really is not as skinny as he looks on TV. And I don't know what this optical illusion is on the screen, but here, I'm not saying he's like gigantic or ripped either. Clearly, he's slender is the best way to put it, right? But he's not a bag of bones, as what it feels like everybody out there wants to portray him as. He's like, oh, does he weigh 190 pounds? Don't know. Is he 120 pounds? Maybe. It's nonsense. Okay. He's a bigger kid than that. His legs are nice and sturdy. And the most important thing of all is he competes. He competes every second he's on the floor. And Corey, what you talked about, the trouble that guards had with him. I love the video clips that you guys posted in your article. And, when we've scouted Chet a bunch already, but one of my favorite ones is the block that he had on AJ Griffin. He didn't jump on that. He barely jumped on that. He's straight up in the air. AJ Griffin, an NBA caliber athlete who's going to go in the top 10. Chet just swallowed him up. And and like you mentioned, the length, the discipline, the timing, the wherewithal, everything. He's completely straight up. He's not looking to foul. He's not chasing blocks. He knows that he's got the advantage here, and he's just patient. And he waits for the shot to go, and he completely swallows it up without having to jump in the air and throw it into the second row of seats, whatever. It's an unbelievable experience to watch him live, and even on tape, it all translates. He's going to be a great rim protector for sure.
Yeah, and like you said, he's clearly a guy who is slim and slender, but it's not going to deter him ultimately from having an impact defensively because we have too many examples of him holding up against NBA caliber, athletes. Like you mentioned AJ Griffin. Memphis tried going into him early and often in their tournament game with Jalen Duren, who is a physical marvel, somebody I stood next to and had that same jaw-dropping, mouth open type thing. I'm like, this guy looks like he's 28 years old in his prime physically, and he's 18 years old. But like Memphis went into him, tried backing Chet down, going, typical, and he got his shit sent right back to him, and it happened a couple of times. This is something that UCLA tried. UCLA tried going into the post, and it did not work out. If you're going into the post for Chet, to me, that's a win already, because Chet is so damn long, and you might body him and he'll back up, as most people will, but he's going right back at you. So you're not moving him off his spot nearly as much as you think that you are.
Bingo.
And then he's just so long. The length it's no matter how strong, no matter how tall you are, it's something that you have to reckon with. It's still hard to deal with. You still have to get the ball over his arm, because even if you move him off his spot, he's still able to get his hand on these balls. So that's something that is, a credit to his favor. And I think that if NBA offenses want to go in and try to take advantage, good luck is my thing. Good
Corey,
luck.
Can we have this conversation? Because it freaking baffles me when people bring this up. Like, he's going to get bodied in the post, he's going to get destroyed. Okay, so let's have this conversation. Who are we worried about in the NBA in terms of exactly that? So, do we still have Maurice Taylor and Chuck Hayes in this league, is my question. Do we still have Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon? Who are we worried about posting up and having these moves to punish Chet Holmgren consistently on the block? Like, who's there? Giannis? Cool. Joel Embiid? Cool. Nikola Jokic? Cool. Tell me more. I just don't see it.
Yeah. If Jonas Valanciunas, shout out my Lithuanian brethren. If you want to just consistently go in to Valanciunas instead of running an actual NBA offense, be my guest. Like, Valanciunas he's crafty in the post. He might get some buckets, but you're taking away, I think, what you would like to be doing on offense and breaking your rhythm. Like Andre Drummond, no. Like DeAndre Ayton,
no.
Like DeAndre Ayton, if your plan is to continue to go in the post, DeAndre Ayton's going to be like, no, thank you. Can I please shoot a 15-footer? Like, I mean, I just don't know who else is out there really that's going to take advantage outside of those guys. And, Bam, Bam's strong. Yeah. But Bam's 6'9".
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Bam might have the strength on him, but it's going to take so much for him to consistently get it over Chet's outstretched arms, in the post, if that's what his plan is. So maybe he scores on him once or twice, but are you going to be able to continuously go down, go to that? I don't think you are. Let's talk about, outside of his post defense, his rim protection. I think the big question for any kind of center now is not, can you guard the post? We've discussed how that's a strategy that is, just not viable at this point. Now it's, can you guard the perimeter? Can you be scheme versatile? Are you going to be played off the floor in a playoff game when really smart coaches are able to actually scheme and game plan for the, and they recognize patterns and they can chunk different clips of your weaknesses? Are you going to be able to stay on the floor? What happens when the Clippers go, 5 wings, 5 guards, when you have to play the Raptors and their tallest guy is Scotty Barnes, who's also playing point guard? What happens then? Can you stay on the floor? Can Chet stay on the floor?
1,000,000%, in my opinion. And of course, this is just my opinion. And have I seen him do it on the NBA floor yet? No. But I thought he showed plenty in college, man. I know, look, Corey, I think my biggest issue with covering the draft at times, and especially right now, we're talking about the week of the draft, everyone is going to come out of the woodwork and be like, oh, I know everything I need to know about these guys, right? And it's cool. Yep. So did you watch their games? No, but I watched their highlights on YouTube. Cool. Very cool. So you're going to tell me that you're going to base your evaluation off of these players off of about 3 minutes of film? Is what you're telling me? And then, of course, all the people who are critiquing them, they're going to put little short clips right out there of, oh, look at the time Jalen Williams crossed him up, almost dropped him, right? They'll put that stuff out there, and that's cool. But these are outliers. It's not the norm. It's not. This is not what's going to happen every time he's out there. I think Chet. My biggest thing with Chet, Corey, is people talk a lot about his hunch, how he's kind of hunched over a lot. That's cool. I understand. It looks weird, but have you noticed his strides? For all you Chet experts out there who wants to give him shit, have you noticed how he moves his feet? Have you noticed how he runs up and down the court? Have you noticed how he moves in short bursts? That's my biggest thing with Chet, Corey, is that I think he is such a ridiculously fluid athlete, whether it's in long strides or in short movements, that I don't understand the argument that he's not going to be able to do it. I think he's going to do it. I 100% think he's going to do it. On top of the fact that something that you talk about all the time, Corey, is that he's a winner. Mm-hmm. He's a hard worker. He's already a ridiculously intelligent defender. So you take hard work, winning mentality, you take all the measurables, you take all the movement stuff, and you're telling me that this guy can't defend on the NBA level? You're silly. You're silly because you're basing your evaluation off of short clips and not real game footage, is my rant.
I have no doubts. For me, that Chet is going to be able to guard on the perimeter. He's going to be able to play and drop. He's going to switch. He's going to do all the things that whatever defensive philosophy your coach has, I think he's going to be able to handle it. Do I think that if he's, he should be checking point guards from, the opening tip for the whole game? Of course not. Jalen Williams from Santa Clara made him look silly. He literally put him on roller skates. He hit him with a couple of moves in isolation. He hit him with step backs. Like, that's the type of guards that Chet's going to face every single night in the NBA, right? Every big is put in those positions. But just because that happened on a few occasions, it doesn't mean that every single guard that you have is going to be able to do this. Like, he's still able to use his length. He's still able to move his feet. I mean, I think it was against San Francisco, Jamari Bouye. Yes. Unbelievably shifty guard, man. Like, that kid, that dude gets his shot off. He can knock down tough shots from the perimeter. When he gets you on an island, he's tough.
He'll be in the league.
And Chet gobbled him up, like, stayed with him, got low. It was really impressive to see how low he actually is able to get, how wide he's able to get, how long. And it's just intimidating. UCLA, some of their guards had Chet on an island, and it's like, you realize at a certain point that if you don't have that elite of elite first step burst, you're probably going to have to fall back into like a step back. And Chet is so long that he could give you that cushion and still get a pretty good contest out. So, and then in a drop, I mean, he's so good at playing the cat and mouse.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the spots that his intelligence really shines the most defensively. The fact that he can guard the point guard while kind of using his peripheral vision to still see where the big is. And then if the point guard hits the roll, he's going to be able to, perfectly time and get back to contest the shot at the rim is really impressive stuff. I mean, he's not without fault. He's not without weakness, but I just think that you can't be right every single time defensively. And he's kind of as right as you could possibly be most of the times. And to me, he's exactly the type of big. Like, I don't want a bigger plotting big chasing people. I want a guy who could roam, like his help side stuff. I could envision him doing the Robert Williams stuff that he did against the Warriors, where he was causing havoc. I could picture that because he does read, where the ball is going so well and the timing of it. It's just really impressive stuff. And I think defensively, like, he's a good rebounder. So he uses his length. So whether he's like making a play on the ball, stealing the ball, or, getting a board, he can then take it coast to coast.
Exactly.
And turn that defense into offense. So I love guys that can turn defense into offense, but do it really without gambling. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's a lot of guys who could turn defense to offense. They're hunting for steals or whatever, but he could do it. It's just a natural part of his game. And it's like that smooth transition. There's no like, all right, now we got to get the ball to the point guard and walk it up the floor. And now he could just go. Yeah. So I want to talk about his offense. I want to transition into that. But before we do that, I want to shout out the chat. So if you're in the chat, we need some likes in the YouTube, fellas. I noticed there's more people watching this than there are likes. So if you're here, throw your boys some likes. Hit us with some thumbs up. You know what I mean? Shout out to Adam K. Says YouTube notifications hitting. Yes, sir. Our guy Kurt is gonna give $5 to Chet, $3 to Paulo, and $2 to the Taco Bell value menu for me. That's the that's called the Pick 41 combo.
I thought he was talking about Johnny Davis.
I make music. Wants to talk a little Jaden Ivey. Is Jaden Ivey a pure point guard like a Ja Morant? My short answer is no, and I recommend you check out my film sesh breakdown I did on Jaden Ivey because I think that is the most iffy part of his game. Rob Lee, your boy, says, I think he's being a little disingenuous here because he says Chet is getting bodied in the paint. Let's be real. Hopefully he drops to 11th, which is where the Knicks are picking. So maybe a little tongue in cheek there.
1,000 IQ play, Rob.
Our guy Lucas Pang, if the body guru himself, referring to you, Albert, says Chet's frame is good. The frame must be good enough. Harping on Chet's frame is such a lazy take. It's the cop-out answer for people who are looking to hate on him. Yeah, he's skinny, but it's never stopped him. I mean,
amen.
Cut the tape, stop the episode right there. You know what I mean?
Boom.
Shout out to Lucas. Shout out everybody in the chat. All right, let's talk about the offense now, and let's start it off with how he turns defense into offense. We'll talk about his transition. Normally we start with the shooting, but I feel like this a little bit has to do with the shooting, right? Tell me what you like about him most offensively in transition, because I think there's a number of directions you can go here.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned it before, and I want to bring it up one more time because I think it definitely applies to this side of the ball too. His gait is ridiculous. Watch him run the floor, and it does not make sense. It really doesn't make sense at all to me. I think the way that he moves, the fluidity of it all is unreal. The way that he is so natural and confident when he just grabs a rebound and decides, okay, I'm going to grab and go. It looks so normal, which makes no sense because it also looks so weird at the same time. And I think overall, Corey, I keep thinking about this, and I think people are just genuinely afraid of him because he's so different. And genuinely, people are afraid of things that are different. And Chet is just really, really different. And I wanted to mention this before when you were talking about his defense, but watch his international stuff. Guys, I'm begging you, if you have some sort of resource where you can watch his international stuff, it's freaking insane. It's crazy. The stuff that he was asked to do defensively, number one, was incredible. He was doing it all. I really thought I actually don't know who the coaches are, but they were like, hey, Chet, we need you to do all these different things. And he's like, cool, I got you. And then offensively, he would grab and go. The connection and the chemistry that he had with Jaden Ivey was special. The reads that he can make, bringing the ball up the court, whether it's deciding to pull up, whether it's taking it all the way to the rim, whether it's the passes that he was making, that the ESP that he had with Ivy was unbelievable. But okay, I know I'm giving a long answer. I like everything about him in transition, but the grab and grow stuff is special because it's so different.
It is, because he can legitimately pass, dribble, shoot, in transition. There are plenty of examples of him bringing the ball up the court, leading the break, and acting as your point guard. Whereas traditionally 15, 20 years ago, you're telling him to get the rebound and pass it off to Andrew Nembhard and run to the rim, right? Yep. Now he's just grabbing and going himself, and he's initiating as the point guard and hitting Julian Strother and, all those guys. Then there are the examples of him stopping on a dime from above the break, top of the arc, and knocking down threes so fluidly, so effortlessly. It almost got to a point where it's like, are you not reading the scout? Are you guys not watching film? This is his shot, man. He wants to come down in transition with the ball in his hands, dead center, and stop and pop. And it was so impressive. It's not something you really don't see it from guard prospects. You know what I mean? Guard prospects don't do that. And what it sets up is now when you are coming out because you have to guard him for the threat of his shot in transition. And this is where I think you're going to see his game translate more at an NBA level than it did in college, where the court wasn't nearly as spaced. You have Drew Timme down low, right? And the line's not as far back. You're not playing with knockdown guys in every single spot. Although Gonzaga had pretty good shooters,
Oh yeah.
But his ability to play in space when the defense is shifted and kind of losing their bearings in transition. Now he's taking it to the rack,
right?
And he's attacking,
right?
And this is a guy who finished almost legitimately almost everything near the rim, and in transition when there's no rim protectors there, he's gonna finish 80% of the time. So the kid just in transition is a true threat. And again, I think transition is and this is where even with guards, seeing Jaden Ivey, seeing Jalen Green, Anthony Edwards, those type of guards in transition is where you can see their vision and what you're hoping to project forward. Because sometimes in the half court, they're not making those same reads where they see the guys in the weak side, those advanced reads, right? So you're looking at transition sometimes as a way, but they do see it in transition when there's a little bit more space, when they got guys on their heels. So maybe we could project it and teach them that in the half court and make them into those kind of passers, playmakers going forward. For Chet, I think you could see how he's going to turn into an offensive scoring threat more in transition because he's going to have more space to attack. Because I don't think Chet is a guy who's playing on the block. Even dating back to his high school tape, he did not take advantage of smaller high school kids on the block. It was very much so perimeter based. And that's fine, because as soon as you get past the fact that he's 7 foot and he's not a post player, you realize he could still be effective getting his shots in the ways that he's comfortable getting them. And I think transition is where I think you see a little bit more of the type of offensive threat he's going to be in the NBA.
I couldn't have said it any better. He's truly unbelievable. He's so different. He's so special. I agree with everything that you said, man. And I want to get into more of the half court stuff too, because what he was asked to do in that Gonzaga system with the players that he had on that team, I thought was really special. So yeah, we'll get into that now.
Tell me about it. What do you want to talk about specifically?
Number one, the passing is ridiculous. And the thing is, I don't think if you're not paying attention and you're not looking closely, if you're doing kind of like a skim over of things, you're going to look for the highlights. And my thing with Chet is he had highlights, but he is just such a consistently smart, effective mover of the ball that I think it's really, really special. The connection that he had with Bolton, with Strother, with Timme, with Nembhard, with all those guys, honestly, was unbelievable. Who else am I missing? I'm missing Hickman, Salas, all those guys. His connection with them was unbelievable. The reads that he was making, the entry passes to Timme, right? Or he'd catch it high post, the reads that he's making to either side of the floor. To Bolton. Bolton wasn't like a dead-eye shooter, but he could still shoot it enough. To Strother, right? The things that he could create just with his magnetism was so special. And the passes and the reads that he was making off of all that stuff was just electric for me. And I'm telling you, Corey, it really does take you to really pay attention to realize the threat that he was as a passer was so important. And we talk about the passing of guys like Paolo, all these other guys. I think Chet's right there with him. He's such an effective ball mover that it's not going to end up on an ESPN top 10 every single night, but it's because he's such a high level passer and intellectual on that side of the floor that he creates easy looks for his teammates consistently is what's important in my eyes.
We so often talk about connectors and we refer to them as these guards, these kind of 6'5" to 6'8" guards who maybe aren't necessarily primary initiators, but they're just guys who are going to keep the ball moving and help your offense get the ball where it needs to go. There's not going to be any ball stopping. They're going to allow you to play 0.5 basketball, quick decision, where you're not allowing the defense to reset because the ball is going to like Cam Thomas, and he's all of a sudden dribbling the air out of the ball. And shout out Cam Thomas, and a guy that we really liked in last year's draft, but not the ideal example of a 0.5 NBA player.
Right.
But Chet's a connector, and you often don't see that out of guys that tall. You know what I mean? Like
right.
You have Jokic, but he's not a connector. He's a primary playmaker.
He's a hub. Yeah.
He's a hub of your offense.
Right.
Years ago, before the MVPs, I compared him to, I said that he was the next Steve Nash. I wrote an article about how he was the next Steve Nash. And because I just hadn't seen anybody with his passing creativity. And Chet's not that. I don't think you want to go into Chet every time down, give him the ball and let him read the floor and make plays. Right. I don't think that's his game. But I do think, like you said, he's able to find all of the guys on his team. Gonzaga had a deep team of guys that could all, effectively put the ball in the hole, shoot the ball when they were open. And Chet did a good job making those reads. And, the high-low with Timmy that they played, I mean, it's just he's a really fun passer in the half court. And I'm interested to see how NBA offenses use him, because I think he's going to be able to make the short roll passes. He's going to be able to keep the ball moving right off of pick and pop when guys close out. I think he's going to be able to pass on the move and hit guys when he is attacking defenders that are closing out to him. But I want to see him in these double drags, like the handoff actions. Yeah. Because I think that the NBA teams are going to be able to run all that stuff that you see with Bam and Joel Embiid. And it's just going to look different because he's a little thinner. But the fact that he could pop out to the perimeter or roll to the rim presents a challenge because it allows you to play the guessing game. And Chet's a quick enough processor that he's going to be able to, drop the ball off to guys that are cutting when the defense shifts. It's going to be interesting.
Yep. I mean, really quickly before we move, what you just mentioned, watch the Ivy stuff with him in the U19, man. Some of the reads that he's making off of the high post and just the dimes, the beautiful, look away passes, little bounce passes that he was making at Ivy and all the other guys on that team, just magic, absolute magic.
Let's talk about his shooting. He shot close to 40% from three. Do you have any concerns about his shooting?
I think it only gets better. I and also on top of that, Corey, this is more of a macro big picture question about his role on the next level and how you want to utilize him. I don't see Chet as an extremely high usage guy at all. So if that's going to be his role and if he can make 2 to 3 threes per game, I think we're in a good place. I'm really confident in his shooting. I'm really confident in the touch. As you mentioned, when he's a trailer in transition and he just pulls up from three, top of the arc, it looks money every single time. There's so much that you can do with him. So as a shooter, I have no concerns. Obviously, the 71% from the free throw line isn't ideal, but I think he's going to, I just mechanically, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's really, really smooth. I think he shoots it with good arc. He's a really tall guy, so obviously it's going to be hard to block his shot. So I have no concerns. And obviously Gypsy doesn't either.
No. Gypsy's causing just chaos with some of the water bottles around here. Here's my one concern, because mechanically, fluid, hot, he shoots it at his peak. This is something that a few episodes ago when we had Larry on to talk, just a guy who hasn't followed the draft, and he had Chet number one just based off the highlights, even because he's I mean, it's obvious. He was Chet shoots at his peak, and he's 7 feet tall. So learning how to shoot the ball from that high up, it's an unblockable shot. You know what I mean? So I wish that Chet had shot 37% instead of the 39-40%, because to me, the one area of concern that I have is that he gets a little gun shy sometimes. He's not quick enough to pull that trigger and let it fly. And he's such a fluid shooter, and his shot is so unblockable that sometimes I just want him to get a little bit more selfish. And this he's so, I think, concerned with making the right play and keeping the ball moving that I think there's going to come a point in time where he's going to be the right play. And even if it's a tough contested shot, he's going to be the one that needs to take it. And it's not like he didn't hit contested shots. A lot of those shots in transition, were contested. He was knocking it in guys' faces, but especially as a pick and pop threat, he's going to have to shoot it, have a quick trigger and not be afraid to shoot it when it's contested. I think off kicks a lot of times, especially, in the corner, he wouldn't, he would hesitate a little bit. And in high school, he was like really devastating from the right corner because you have the threat of him knocking it down, but then he was so often he would love to attack closeouts, and it would be one dribble and it would be a flush from the right corner because a guy would have to overplay the shot. So I want to see him get back to that where he's just so willing to shoot it. Cause look, he shot 51% in that FIBA tournament or something ridiculous from three. And if FIBA's the international style is an environment where guys typically don't shoot it better.
Yeah.
Guys typically shoot it worse in the FIBA tournament. And Chet knocked down like 51% of his threes, knocked down 39% at Gonzaga. I want to see this kid just let it fly because he's got the shot to do it. He's got, I don't think he's going to shoot 34% if he takes some tough shots. I think he's still going to be at 37, 38%. It's just, he's got to get used to that quick trigger. And I think that's going to allow him to take advantage of the rim attack stuff because, he already has a go-to move as like when he's attacking downhill. And that's the ability to spin off either shoulder so fluidly and finish at the rim, finish with floaters. Like he has multiple finishes that, finish with either hand on layup packages, already multiple finish. Like he's so, and look, multiple guys have said like, this is a guy who is only showing us some of what he's capable of offensively. And he's showing us these flashes. So, but it's the aggressiveness that you want to see, right? Because if you're only so aggressive, and again, he wants to play the right way. Drew Timme was obviously like, he's the leader of that team. He's a guy who led them, as far as you could lead them the year before. But I want to see him get aggressive in the NBA. It's more fluid. There's more possessions. It's open. Let that shit fly, man. That's what I want to see because it's going to open up so many of the other things like the drives, the spins, all the things that you want to see in his game.
For sure. And Corey, if I can, like, I agree with you, but I also believe he's shown that before, like whether if you go back and watch his high school stuff or like the AAU stuff or whatever, like there are moments, even like if you think back to that clip that went viral years back when he like, crossed over Steph Curry or whatever, like there is an aggression to his game. But I think with what you're talking about, he's an incredible teammate. And we've talked about this before. I saw him live and he's just a great teammate. The chemistry that he has with the team on and off the court, even during warmups, you see it. There's a quiet confidence to him. And it's not like, I'm obviously not comparing his game to these guys, but it's almost like Derrick Rose, Kawhi Leonard-esque. Where he's very quiet, very stoic, but you can feel that there's a strong confidence in this kid where no matter where he's playing, because I saw him in Vegas twice, right? And he was unafraid of the big crowd. He was unafraid of the hype. He was unafraid of the fact that Dick Vitale's in the building and all the ESPN cameras are there. There's a very calm, quiet, stoic confidence to him. And I think that's a huge part of his game where I think he's going to step into from game one in the NBA and be totally afraid of nothing. And I think he's going to pick his spots and be a great teammate. But also I imagine his NBA coaches are going to say exactly what you said, Corey. They're going to be like, hey kid, don't be afraid to shoot. Be aggressive. And I think he's capable of doing that because he's shown it on other levels too. So essentially I think what we're saying is the kid is perfect. So
very close. If he goes to OKC, I want Poku to be his vet.
Wow.
Because I want Chet to get a little bit of Poku in him. Just a little bit. You know what? Play with some flair. Do some stuff you're not comfortable with. Make some mistakes. And I don't know how long Poku would be his vet for because I don't know how long Poku would be, in OKC after the fact. But I need some Poku in Chet from a mentality standpoint. The last thing I want to touch on in the half court with Chet and his game is I really think he has that KD Dirk fade away from the mid range. That's going to be a big time weapon for him down the line. And to me, that's the kind of shot that you absolutely need when things get tough, when the game gets tight in the playoffs. You need a go-to move that nobody's going to be able to stop. And I do think it's a work in progress. I think he's able to get to it very easily. But there were times where there was a little bit of hesitancy. There was an occasion against Duke where, he didn't quite know if like yeah, this is going to be a tough shot. Maybe I shouldn't shoot it. Maybe I should shoot it. And they kind of swarmed him and it was too late. But then also there was the example against Mark Williams against Duke where, you know, in a big moment in the second half, he just took him one-on-one and did that little one-legged fadeaway from like 8 feet away and teardropped it in over his outstretched arms. And that's a guy who has a 9-9 standing reach that he did that over, right? He did it over Jalen Duren from the foul line, turning over you know, his opposite shoulder going towards the right, which is like a really hard fadeaway shot. Most people, you know, they want to turn. He was turning over his left shoulder there. I think most people want to turn over the right. I mean, it was a really, really impressive look that he knocked down. That shot could be one of those things that we look at as like the signature move for that not everybody has. And I think he has the opportunity to have it. And I think that's where, if there are any, that's where the KD comp is going to come from, because he's going to be able to get to that shot whenever he wants.
I just shudder at the thought of like what this kid is going to become, because I don't even know how to quantify him as a prospect. Like, is he going to be your number one option offensively? I don't want to definitively be like, no, he'll never be that. And at the same time, I just don't know. But Corey, with what you're saying, like if he continues to develop that, and you saw some of it, even it could, because the big game that everyone watched over the summer was the Wembanyama game, right? That was the unbelievable one. And even in that game, there were times that he went right at him. I remember there was one time he's at the top of the key, right? I think some guy was trying to come set screen and Chet's like, nah, I'm good. And he just went right at the rim, right? And in my opinion, I thought he got fouled, but there was no foul call. Cool. He missed a layup, but it was a really aggressive take, you know? And that's against the second coming of, I don't know, Will. I don't know what people are going to compare Wembanyama to next year. Like, we're struggling with this Chet. I don't even know what that's going to look like next year, but I really respected Chet a lot for just going right at him and trying different things to score on the kid. So I'm with you, Corey. I think that shot is a great shot. And I think they're like just all over the court, because I don't even think we've mentioned this yet. Kid has great touch too, right? He has great touch around the rim. And as you mentioned, with both hands. So he's going to be able to do a lot.
Yeah. In the article that I wrote with Rucker, I said that he is the gateway to the modern NBA for big men. Because I think he is, you know, we've seen, you know, Porzingis, I guess you could argue, is kind of the first of these guys, right? He kind of coined the term unicorn when he came into the league. That's when we started using it, because he was this big 7-foot+ guy who blocks shots and shoots threes so fluidly. But Chet has more to his game than Porzingis did. And next year we're getting, you know, Victor Wembanyama, who right now you won't find one person who will say anything bad about him. Everyone kind of agrees that he's this generational prospect, but he does a lot of the same things that Chet does is the thing. And I think that, you know, Victor's longer, taller, you know, like
7'3",
you know, he's this, the evolution of Chet somehow. But it wouldn't shock me, like he's had some injury issues already. Like Chet hasn't. It wouldn't shock me if Chet ultimately is the same tier and caliber of prospect, to be honest, because there's not so much separating them, in my opinion. I think that Chet's got the handle. He's got the shot. Like, he can run off movement. You know, like we talked about, okay, how is he going to guard Embiid and Jokic on the block? But like, if you're running Chet off of multiple screens to get him open for a shot, how are they going to guard him?
Yep.
So I think that Chet he's the gateway, you know, to, you know, I've been watching Stranger Things with my wife. You know, he's the gateway to, you know, whatever lies ahead of us in this new NBA that we're embarking on, where again, it's not about strength and physicality. It's about feel and processing and versatility and length and skill.
All right.
It's Chet Holmgren.
Corey, I'm so upset right now because you said exactly what I wanted to say, because I was listening to the Simmons pod on Sunday, and him and Russillo kind of talk about Wembanyama in passing, right? And they're like, oh, this kid Victor, like, oh, you just got to watch him move. You know, the kid, like, you watch and some of the stuff, it looks like they're saying like, oh, it's like the footage is doctored, like it doesn't look real, all that stuff. And I'm listening to them and I'm like, so tell me why none of that applies to Chet. And I think all of what they said should also apply to Chet. Chet is also weird. He's so strange. And for me, Corey, and I love that you brought up KP, because people are going to be like, oh, he's the next Porzingis. I'm like, no, Porzingis couldn't pass out of the double team. Like, you're wrong. He really struggled with that. Porzingis could not do any of that. And for all of his shot blocking, whatever, Porzingis had real issues on the defensive side of the ball. Want to throw that out there. But for me, Corey, when I think about Chet, sorry to be, maybe I'm being aggressive to certain people today. I don't know.
You're a Knicks fan. You have your feelings about Porzingis.
I want to compare him not to Anthony Davis. Don't want to compare him to Porzingis. I want to compare him to Shohei Ohtani of the LA Angels in baseball.
This is if you're buying stock, who have you bought stock in?
Bingo. Perfect. Okay. Great transition. This is why you're the host. So I want to compare him to Ohtani because of this. When Shohei Ohtani came into Major League Baseball, I think it was like 2017, right? 2018. I might be wrong. Everyone was like, what is this guy? We've never seen anybody like it. The only thing we've seen was Babe Ruth, right? The kid can hit jacks, and also supposedly he's going to be the ace of your rotation. We've never seen it. Everyone's like, how's he not going to get hurt? How is this going to make sense? What is this going to look like? We've never seen anybody do this consistently or with any type of success. It's not going to work. He had a lot of haters, a lot of doubters. All he did was come into the league and win AL Rookie of the Year. He did get injured. Okay, cool. But what happened last year? Ho Hum hit 46 home runs, struck out 1 million guys, was an unbelievable pitcher, and was an absolute freak and won AL MVP. So for me, when I think about Chet, I get it. People are afraid of what they do not know. The unknown is scary. Anything that is different is scary. I understand that. Chet Holmgren is weird. He's different. We've never seen it before. It's scary. I understand. But do not use that as an argument to say that this kid is not going to be a phenomenal basketball player. Just because you haven't seen it before and you don't understand it doesn't give you the license to say that it's going to be bad, is what I want to say. He is the Shohei Ohtani of the NBA draft this year. He's weird. You don't understand it, but he's going to be phenomenal, in my opinion, is my rant and is my comp.
I mean, I think that's amazing because there's not a clear-cut NBA comp for him. Yeah. You know, like in our guide, we did Rudy Gobert, Evan Mobley. I don't remember who the third was. It might have been Porzingis. But he's like Andre Kirilenko if Kirilenko was 7 feet tall, but also had the shooting ability of a guard.
Right.
I mean, it's unlike anything we've seen from a one-to-one comp. And, I said that in my article where people will be like, we've seen guys like him not hold up. Like Sean Bradley could not hold a candle to Chet skill-wise. You're going to comp him. Kristaps could not move like this. Throw whatever other guy that you want to put in there. I bet they couldn't shoot like Chet could shoot or pass or take the ball coast to coast. It's new, and new is scary. New makes you fearful because you haven't seen it work. And I think that a lot of times in the draft community, we like to say, a lot of people like to say, I don't like comps because, clearly when you make a comp to somebody, you're saying that this person is going to turn into this person. And that's why, we did prospect chemistry for the draft guide because, a chemistry experiment, you take a little this, a little that, and then you create something new. But you've never seen anything like Chet. So you want to say it's not going to work, but why is there a glass half empty perspective there instead of a glass half full and looking at all of the things that he can do? I think, smart NBA development is let's maximize everything he can do and make sure that his quote unquote weaknesses, and he has some, the body's a concern. If you're going to play him at center, I get it. You're still going to have 6'8", 230-pound guys going into his body. But what if you play him? What if OKC gets Jalen Duren at 12? And now Chet's playing out on the perimeter and you have that bigger guy. What if they pair him? What if he's playing next to Wendell Carter Jr.? Right? Like he's not going to have to do all of those things. Smart development will alleviate some of those fears by putting him in positions to succeed. Because ultimately, Chet is this lottery ticket that I think is going to truly alter your franchise. There's very few people that I feel like this about, in the draft year after year. But Chet is one of those guys I feel very strongly that he could change and alter the direction of your franchise.
100%.
You know?
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
So what team in the top 3 do you think is the best fit for Holmgren? What team does he give the best ROI on?
Okay, so this might be like kind of an orthodox answer, but my answer is actually going to be the Magic. And the reason why is because, like, I get it. Like, he'd be phenomenal in OKC with those guards and the playmaking for sure. I just feel like, and this is a weird answer, and I don't know if a lot of people are going to give this answer. I want him to be the number 1 pick so he lives with that burden. I actually think Chet will take that on. He's going to wear it on his chest and show the world that he's worthy of being the number 1 pick. I think Chet is the type of character where he'll take on the responsibility of being the number 1 pick in the draft and raise his game to the point where everyone's like, oh, okay, so Orlando finally got it right. I really believe it, man. And I think he's just going to live up to that status of being the number 1 pick. He's going to embrace that challenge, and he's going to be an insane basketball player. And of course, like, you look at the team too, like you just mentioned it, right? Him playing with Wendell Carter, Franz Wagner, awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Markelle Fultz had a strong end to the season. Great. Cole Anthony, great, right? RJ Hampton had a lot of people. RJ Hampton has a lot of fans in the NBA, and I think you and I are there. I think we like RJ as well. They have options, and they have players that can play with Chet and accentuate his strengths. So my answer is Orlando, because of the main reason that I think he would really embrace being the number 1 pick in the draft.
That's interesting. I'm going to say OKC, one, because I like the basketball fit, with Giddey and SGA as just high feel guys who are weird, but for similar reasons that you think that you want him to embrace being the first round pick because he could handle that burden. And I agree that that's a responsibility that he would really take seriously. I want him to have the chip on his shoulder that he wasn't the number 1 pick.
Okay.
That somebody thought somebody was better than me. Like, somebody was like, oh, this wasn't obvious to you. You work in the NBA, you're a decision maker, and you want to take this guy over me? Seriously? Have you been watching me? I've been, on ESPN since I was a kid. And you're late to the party on this. I want him to take and play with that chip on his shoulder. But either way, I think he has the mentality that whatever happens, he is going to take that approach. But that's interesting, and I like that you said that. All right, this is our number 1 guy. This is probably going to be your easiest sell me this pen of this entire cycle, but you got to give the people what they want. It's time. Sell me this pen on the unicorn big, Chet Holmgren.
For sure. And we're still looking for a sponsor. So if you work for a company that sells pens, get on this already. Okay.
It could be if you work for a company that doesn't sell pens, we'll take that too.
Pampers, if you're out there.
I don't know.
So
Peter Pan, peanut butter, Reynolds wrap. I don't know, whatever.
Who but WB Mason? Okay, so here we go. Let me sell you this pen. Okay. I think when NBA teams think about players that could potentially be generational talents, I think a lot of times the stigma that comes with that branding, that title, whatever, is that you think of guys that are ball dominant, guys who are going to be at the core of a heliocentric offense, whatever. Right. Chet Holmgren is a generational talent. Easy. Right. And the reason why is no, you're not going to put the ball in his hands and be like, hey, Chet, make every decision for us. That's not it. The reason why Chet Holmgren is a generational talent is because he will do things on the floor that nobody else can do, whether it's offensively or defensively in transition, whatever it is. On so many levels of the NBA game, Chet Holmgren will be an outlier because of his size, because of his ability, because of his intellect. If you want players that are smart, gifted, talented, and have the measurables, then you want a guy like Chet Holmgren. So if you're looking for that, if you want a generational type of player, then I think you go Chet Holmgren. And it's not in the classic sense of a generational type of player. I'm not saying that he's going to be Anthony Davis or Luka Doncic or whoever else you can think of. right? I'm talking about this is a new way of framing, a new way of looking at a generational talent. And that's what Chet Holmgren is. And the reason why I think he should go number one in this draft.
He's the gateway to the next generation of what big man basketball may look like.
Boom.
Because I think that he's not the last. Victor's not the last. There's going to be kids who are tall and lanky, and they're going to be guards. And we're going to see in 10 years from now, a lot of guys that look like the evolution of what Chet kind of brought into the league.
Bingo.
All right. We did it, man. Chet Holmgren, the number one prospect on the board. This was the most important episode. We gotta get this one right. We just spent an hour talking about why he's the number one guy. So Chet's got to prove us right now. So if he's the number one pick, he's got to carry the burden. If he's the number two pick, he's got to have the chip. But either way, he's got to carry the burden of making us look smart. Because as you say, what's your saying that you use all the time?
I'm dumb, but I'm smart.
We're dumb, but we're smart. So, Chet, please make us look good. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the Draftdaq NBA Draft Podcast. Albert, plug the things that you need to plug.
Yo, let me plug me.
Yes.
Okay. Shouts to Maxwell for putting out a tweet this morning saying I'm the most underrated person in the draft space. I wait till I meet Maxwell. I didn't
even see that, man.
Yeah, he tweeted
He's
that
right.
out this morning, and
right.
I almost gave him a virtual hug and a kiss. So shouts to Maxwell. But okay, what have I put out there recently? I did a Jalen Williams interview this weekend. We did about 35 minutes. He was awesome. Jalen Williams was an incredible interview. He was really fun. Gave me a lot of great answers. I think he had a good time too. He said that I asked him questions he had never gotten before, so that's always fun. And I appreciated that. He had a lot of kind words, and also, I think we might be doing more stuff with him in the future, which is really, really cool. Also wrote a joint piece about 2 weeks ago with my brother Evan of our site at No Ceilings, talking about Dyson Daniels. And of course, Corey's going to be plugging our draft live stream, so I'll stop there. But I do want to say, guys, thanks for rolling with us. And Corey, in my opinion, I think this Chet episode's the best episode we've done in a long time. I really enjoyed this one.
This was a fun episode. Really excited to talk about Chet in long form like this and not just like a quick 10, 15-minute hit. On the topic of Chet, plugging at NoCeilingsNBA.com, Rucker and I, we wrote about Chet and why we think people are overthinking him as the number one prospect, and we broke it down and we clipped it, different things up. So that was a lot of fun. That honestly, it might have been my favorite piece that I wrote this year, especially because I like the collaborative pieces. It helps you shift your mind and the perspective from where you think it might go. And then I also have a Chet film sesh where I broke down his game in SportsCenter style, so you can check that out. Other than that, we have the Darion Sebron interview. Check out Albert's Jalen Williams interview. I think that was the best prospect interview that anyone did this year, and I truly mean that. Really thoughtful questions.
High praise, bro.
Just Jalen and Jalen too. The thing I've learned, like, it takes two to tango. Jalen is a really, really good interviewer.
He was great.
He gives a good interview. He gives you really good responses, long form, lets you build off them, but you crush that. So I think if there was one thing, you should check Albert's Jalen Williams interview up, and you can check that out on this feed, or you could check it out on the No Ceilings TV YouTube, where we will be doing a draft stream just days from now at 7:30 Eastern time, draft night. The whole crew is going to be there. We're going to start pregame at 7:30, and we are going all the way through the entire draft. So it's probably going to be, how long were we in Brooklyn last year? It's probably going to go to like midnight, but It's going to be an amazing time. A lot of chaos, a lot of surprises. It's going to be sponsored by NBA Top Shot. So we're probably going to do, we're going to have some interesting little wrinkles thrown in there to integrate Top Shot. That's going to be fun. And make sure that you subscribe and share this feed. And you got a few days left to go through all of the episodes that we've done. I think we might do a couple more episodes before the before draft night. So we might not be done, but until those come out, make sure that you go and get your scouting process through. Put it on 2x speed so you can bang them out quick. and you're on draft night, you can follow through with the Draftdaq motto: I'm dumb, but I'm smart, because you listen to us talk for hours on end. Appreciate everybody on the YouTube live rocking with us. One more time, leave us that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, lock in. It's crunch time, boys. Draft night coming up. We out. Peace.
Peace.